Guys, so good evening to all. So this session is about planning for our internal assessments. We know that the internal assessments is an integral part of our examination system. So I remember in our school days, we used to have these board exams out of 100. There never used to be this internal assessments. We used to give a final examination on the basis of which we used to give the marks, right? And then came the CCE. We are all aware, if those teachers who are senior teachers, at least they will be remembering the CCE period where there was continuous and comprehensive evaluation, right? Where the entire examination system was in the school itself. And there were a lot of flaws and there were also good points. But, due to some reasons that was shelved, and then we came back to our board system, but in a different format. It was not out of 100. Now we see that our class 10 exams are out of 80, and based on the class 10, the lower classes are also following the same format, right? So we have provision for internal assessments, and today's session is basically about how to plan for our internal assessments. You know that there are various domains in that, like multiple assessments are there, subject enrichment is there, your periodic tests are there. So all this, how do we plan about, and what is the strategy that we should use? So this session is all about that, right? So we come to the first and foremost thing, that is quote, that is planning is very, very important, because unless we plan, as the quote says, failing to plan is planning to fail, isn't it? So whenever the year starts, we need to plan out. Lesson plan should be ready, a teacher's diary should be ready, the syllabus should be ready, our assessment pattern should be ready, our rubric should be ready. What are the types of projects that you're going to give, that should be ready, your portfolio pattern should be ready. So everything should be ready at the beginning of the year, and we are not repeating the same thing over and over again. There are obviously changes, and the changes always should be for the better, right? So we get a lot of ideas by attending sessions. CBSE is sending us constant updates about different things. So it is important that we go through all these directives and make the best possible plan so that our students are benefiting out of it, right? So I hope this session is going to be useful for all the teachers up to class 10, because why class 10? It's useful for others also. The only thing is that, when I say 20% internals, that doesn't work for class 11 and 12, because in the practical exams or some subjects, they're having 70 theory and 30 practicals. And, there are different subjects depending on if it's a skill subject. So getting into the nitty-gritties of all that becomes very difficult. That's why I'm primarily focusing on the 80-20 pattern, which is up to class 10. But obviously, it is going to be relevant for the other classes also. Only the weightage will differ in different classes. The most important thing is that, constantly we are getting still on our WhatsApp groups. Most of you are in our WhatsApp groups, and you will find that there are many teachers still asking for a deleted syllabus, what is the curriculum and all. It's a little strange that as teachers, we are still not updated. So always remember to go through two sites, two reliable sites, not newspaper cuttings or some digital media or some XYZ websites. Always make it a habit to go through the CBSE website for any notification, and the NCERT site for the books, right? So the new NCERT books with the deleted portion, there is nothing deleted now. The NCERT has already deleted the portions and made the new books. If you have not got the new books, please download it or you buy it from the market. It's easily available. Nothing is deleted from that. So nobody should be asking now what is the syllabus, because the syllabus has been released and the new NCERT books have come. There is no confusion right now. Last year, still we had confusion because we were using a book with a lot of deleted topics. But this year, ideally, there shouldn't be any confusion, because the new NCERT books are already out. There is nothing deleted. The full book is coming, right? And the syllabus that is by the CBSE is also uploaded. So you have CBSE and NCERT, everything is uploaded. So there shouldn't be any confusion regarding this, right? Because ultimately, if teachers are confused, they pass on that confusion to the students. So we as educators need to be very sure what is the syllabus and what is going to come, so that we can prepare our students accordingly, right? So going further, the distribution. Now, the distribution, we know that internal assessments are out of 20. I'm talking about the final exams. The other sub exams and all, you can make your own rubrics. This is as per the board protocol I'm talking about. So it is divided into 4 parts. The 20 marks is divided into 4 parts. The first part is obviously your periodic tests, which we call the pen paper test, right? That means there will be some questions in that periodic test. Normally schools are taking out of 40, and it's a proper, it will have MCQs, and it will have assertion, reasoning, case based questions, short answer, long answer. So mixture of all type of should be there in those exams which you are conducting in your school. So that is your periodic test with your written test. Now that constitutes only 1/4 of this 20. It shouldn't be the ultimate aim that, whatever the student is writing in the periodic test, that is internal assessment. No, the board wants students to score high marks in the internal assessment. So it's not only about the tests that's happening. They have introduced a lot of other, domains where the student can actually score by just submitting the work. And the first is the portfolio. Now, what is portfolio? Portfolio is basically what you are doing in your class. Every teacher is doing something in the class. So it's a collection of those samples. So when we are collecting these samples and, representing all that data in a file, that becomes your portfolio. So it could be your classwork, homework, the assignments, any project that you are doing, something special that you're doing in the class. So all that becomes your portfolio. And subject enrichment, of course, it depends from subject to subject. Like in maths and science, we are having lab activities. In languages, they have the speaking and listening skills, ASL activities they have. So in different subjects, they will be having, some subjects may be having projects. So subject enrichment is what? Allowing the students to discover the subject more deeply. And in subject enrichment, you have to obviously integrate one of the projects or one of the work with the paired state. For example, Delhi is paired with Andamans, and many states are, and Lakshadweep also. And so you have to take the paired state and do accordingly. Then we have multiple assessment. Multiple assessment means quiz, crosswords, any different. I'll be coming to these more specifically. Just I am giving you an idea. So portfolio, if the student is getting, you give 5 marks. Subject enrichment, or give 5 marks there. Multiple assessments mean no written test, oral test. It could be some collaborative work. It could be some dialogue, role plays. I'll be coming to that. So 15, more or less out of 15, I think the student should be able to score easily 13, 14 or 15. If not full for all, at least 13, minimum 13 marks should be scored. The only thing where they lose out is probably the periodic test, because ultimately we can't do anything about it. Rest all is a matter of submissions. So when they are submitting, you have to make some rubrics like submission on time, neatness, accuracy, collaborative work, leadership. Those are things which we have to decide. Okay. So let me go further to explain what are this. So if I'm talking specifically of high school, which obviously is relevant for 6, 7, 8, and even the primary classes, besides the unit test, you should have a lot of exploratory activities, because yesterday itself I took a session on NEP. I think many of you attended that, and day before I had conducted one SQAF also. SQAF, that is also getting mandatory now, that every school has to assess their activities and their curriculum according to certain standards. So it's important that as educators, we know the basics of the NEP, the NCF, the SQAAF, and so on. If you have not, then it is better to attend some sessions or read about it so that you get a basic structural idea. We don't have to dwell deep into this if you're not involved directly, but at least some idea everybody should be having. We should not be blank, right? So exploratory activities are not something which they will copy from the net or use ChatGPT and just submit and you give the marks. Exploratory means give them something creative which they will be able to do with the hand. So some work which does not involve too much of labor, but at the same time, with the help of a collaborative approach, the group can submit something very beautiful. So like I had done a workshop on art integration. If you've not seen, you can watch that video, where a lot of students have done different activities, collaborative activities. Practicals and projects, of course, it's already given on the site. We can use those practicals and projects. You can, of course, give your own projects also, but practicals for maths and science is definitely given on the NCERT site. So, and minimum one has to be with the paired state. You don't have to do all your practicals or all your projects with the paired state. you have to do only one, minimum one. So you can do 2, 3, but at least one should be there, because as far as class 10 is concerned, they will not give the admit card without the submission of these, right? Okay. So just for your information, the CBSE has already released the following. That is, the rationalized syllabus and textbooks are already out. I hope everyone has got this. The rationalized syllabus is out and the textbooks are also out. Guidelines for the internal assessments are out for Delhi. I am not very sure about the other states. From the Delhi government, we already have the instructions how to go about the examinations in class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 9, 10, of course, is a board pattern. But what happens in class 8 and what happens in class 5? That also I have taken a session. If you have not watched those videos of teachers from Delhi who have missed that session, you can just go to my channel and search for that. So the changed assessment patterns in the primary levels, and of course in 9, 10, 11, 12, what is the change pattern? The Delhi government, it's a guideline from the NCR, government of Delhi, which is relevant for NCR region. For other states, I'm not aware. You please consult your state regions, because the problem with NEP is that India is such a large country and uniform implementation at the moment is not easy. So different state governments will see the preparedness of the state and accordingly implement. So what happens in, let's say, more advanced state or city cannot be implemented in a very rural place with very less infrastructure or no Wi-Fi or no boards. So it's very difficult task. So we have to start slowly, and they are going to start slowly and steadily with some pilot states. So we have already started in Delhi, right? In the pre-primary stage is already implemented, and now the Delhi government has already issued guidelines about the examination pattern as far as the class 5 and 8 and the minimum learning outcomes, all that, right? So that is already released. Sample papers are already out, although the sample papers, we expect that there may be new sample papers released towards mid of the year. The reason being that the sample papers this time was released very early. Normally they release late, but this time very early because the pattern had completely changed. And now what has happened, the competency-based question, that percentage which was given is not matching, because they brought out another circular which said about competency-based questions and competency-focused questions, etc. And that percent. So many teachers message that, you said, the board has brought out this circular, but it is not matching with the sample paper. That's because the sample paper was prepared before this notification. And therefore, we need to have patience and wait, because ultimately now we don't have to do any sample paper. We have to prepare the students with the syllabus. Year has just started, and by the time it is August, September, I'm sure the board will release a new sample paper according to the new pattern of the CBQs. Right. So the syllabus and textbooks are out, guidelines for internal assessments are out, and the sample papers are out, and teacher training modules, all the handbooks that are required are already out. So if you don't have these handbooks, you can go to the CBSE website and you will find handbooks. Teacher energized manuals are there, handbooks are there, competency-based question booklets are there. Everything you will find on the CBSE website, right? So all the evidences have to be retained. Now, especially if you have not read the SQAAF, that is School Quality Assessment and Assurance Framework, that document you have not read, please read through that. Or those who have not attended any sessions on that, then it is important that we understand that every evidence has to be collected, because every 3 years it becomes mandatory for the school to update on the CBSE portal that what are the activities that being doing. There is a self-assessment and there is also an external assessment, right? So schools have to retain these evidences for inspection. First, there will be a team from the school which will do a self-analysis. So I had explained in my previous webinar about SQAAF, that is the principal. Then there will be 4 teachers, one from the primary, one from the middle school, one from high school, one from senior school. There will be 4 students. There will be members of the parent-teacher association. There will be an admin person. So there will be a counselor or special educator. There will be a co-curricular teacher. So different people are going to form this team, and they will form this assessment team and assess this. And therefore, evidences have to be there. Not that blindly we are saying we did this, then it will be a problem, because the external team which is coming to you, will not be agreeing on the grade that you have given. So you may have given A plus, but they will find that you are actually only B or C. So this becomes a mismatch. So the grading has to be very honest, and that's why the evidences are important, so that we actually prove that what the assessment has been based on honest opinion of the members of the core team that has been formed. So as far as periodic tests are concerned, you are all belonging to different schools, and the dates are not decided by the CBSE. When should you have the periodic test one? When should you have half yearly? You can decide. You can decide on the multiple assessment. What board is very free in this. You are free to decide the dates of the periodic test. You are free to decide what type of multiple assessment you want to give, and you're also free to decide the rubrics. But rubrics you should have. Why are you giving 5 to that person or 4 to another person? Has to be very clear. Otherwise, tomorrow the parent may say, okay, this teacher has some problem with my child, and that is why, in spite of giving, my son has got 4. So accusations can be there if our rubrics are not clear. Okay, so 1 mark is for submission, 1 mark is for neatness, 1 mark is for presentation, 1 mark is for content, 1 mark is for clarity. If we have something like that, then nobody is going to question, because our marking is going to be very transparent, and nobody will have any difference in opinion for the marks that we have given. So schools are free to decide this. Coming further, the minimum learning outcomes. Now, every teacher is expected that when the child leaves your class, at least the minimum, we are not talking about, very hi-fi things they should learn, or they should be, maximum classes should be able to do the toughest possible HOTS questions. We are not talking about that. But minimum learning outcomes, you will find that India's position as far as reading, writing, arithmetic is going down and down. The reason being the MLOs are not achieved. A student in class 3, 4 may not be able to read simple 3-letter words, cat, bat, and all that. They cannot read. The reason is that they're just promoted from one class to the other without checking on the minimum learning outcomes. So as per the NEP, the MLOs, every class will have MLO. So minimum class 1, okay, the child should know 1 to 10. I'm just giving an example, right? And class 3, the student should know the 3-letter words and for reading, basic reading, basic addition and subtraction. So if the child doesn't achieve this, then it becomes the onus of the teacher to prepare such children by taking remedials or extra classes, or whatever ways in which they can be helped. Maybe peer groups can be made, maybe they require some extra help, maybe the parents' help can be taken, but at least the minimum, we are talking about the basic minimum. So those kind of students may be 5, 6 in the class, but they cannot be neglected, because right now what is happening, they are going up to 10, and then what happens, the board says okay, or 9th, because up to 8th was all promotion. Now in Delhi, the Delhi government has said no, there will be a proper exam, and in class 5 and 8, there is a possibility that you can keep them back. So this is the changes that we can expect in the coming days and coming months, that the assessments, as far as the primary is concerned, assessment of the middle school will change dramatically. Why? Because minimum learning outcomes, they are giving so much emphasis. They have, unless they reach this, they cannot be allowed to go to the next class. So there are some protocols to be followed. If the child is not achieving the minimum learning outcomes, then what should be done? Should they be given, kept back, or parental support should be taken, or they should be referred to counselors or special educators, or after 1 month, then what should be the testing process? So that all, there are a lot of protocols to be followed. So it's not that, going one class to the other, and then class 9, you will see that the student has failed, and then the child may be asked to go to another school or something like that. So the minimum learning outcomes can be also downloaded from the website. On the NCERT website, you just go to Google and search for the minimum learning outcomes document. You will be able to get this, right? So these are all available documents, and we should go this. Now, also, there is art integrated learning, AIL, for classes 1 to 12. Now, please don't get confused between art integrated projects and art integrated learning. I think a major confusion comes in this. Art integrated learning is from 1 to 12. Art integrated learning means what are the processes that a teacher is using to take the class. So you are introducing a class in which way? With the help of some unique methods. So that method is the art integrated learning. So how are students responding to that? That becomes your learning outcome. So your objective is basically introducing an art form to start the chapter. So you are an English teacher or maths teacher or science teacher, irrespective of that. How are we introducing it? Is it through, are you using some special method or some art form? It could be dance, it could be puppetry, it could be storytelling, it could be clay modeling, it could be some paper mache, painting, whatever, singing. So which kind of art form are we using to teach that lesson? That becomes your art integrated learning. And we cannot do that in every class, right? Maybe when you're introducing the chapter, maybe an activity in between, that is our art integrated learning. And multidisciplinary approach has to be used for 1 to 8. That means we're not going to give them 5 projects or 6 projects, 1 project with all these ingredients, where math, science, English, Hindi, and all the other subjects are integrated into one. Not that the child is, overburdened with projects. That maths project also you have to do science project. So they have said 1 multidisciplinary project, right? For classes 1 to 8, 9 to 10, 9 and 10, of course, they have to give different projects in each subject, and at least one should be integrated with the paired state. So what are these art forms? This is some example. You can do mime, skit, role play, painting, drawing. It can be through sports, clay modeling, origami. So these are all different techniques by which it can be done. So very beautiful origami and tangrams were done I had shown in my session on art integration, how students have done different projects. So again, I'm requesting, if you have not seen, it is always a good idea to go through those videos so that you get an idea of how to go about the art integrated projects, right? So this is just an example. The example is that how all subjects can be integrated. So this is a common question which comes to me from the classes 1 to 8 teachers, that how can we do it? How is it possible to integrate everything into different subjects in one topic? So I am just taking an example. Let's say rainfall, or air, or water, or land. It can be any topic, just rainfall. It's a very common topic. So how can we use this? In social science, the teacher will be more interested in giving a project based on seasons, or the landforms, or what are the costume of the people there, because of the rain, what are the crops that are being grown there, right? In maths, it will be more statistics. How much of rainfall, in which months is it? And if you're using a comparison, then you can compare it with the paired state. How much of rainfall occurs in January in the 2 states? So pie graphs can be drawn, line graphs can be drawn, bar graphs, histograms, cumulative frequency curves, all that can be done through graphs. Some mathematical problems can be given based on that. In science, when we talk about water, we can talk about evaporation, condensation, all that is involved with water. How does rainfall occur? The whole science, how clouds are formed, precipitation, saturation point, humidity, relative humidity. There are so many terms which comes in, and the student is focusing on those things. Languages can be in the form of a write-up, poems, experience. You visited this place and there were rains. What do you think about that? You're writing short notes. So with a very simple topic, a common topic has to be taken, and all the subjects are integrated there. And this topic should be something relevant to that class. So it should not be a topic like some which they cannot identify with. So it's important that when you're giving a project, that project's topic should be relevant to that particular class, right? So when we are taking about tests, always remember test what the child knows, because I have seen many school teachers trying to make the toughest possible questions, and then 50% of the children will be sweating in the examination hall. I really don't understand the meaning of such, setting such type of questions, because the question paper has to be balanced. There has to be questions based on knowledge. There has to be questions based on understanding, application, and skill. KUAS we used to call. And if you're using Bloom's taxonomy, then there has to be according to that. So different parameters have to be there. So we need to test what the child knows. So there should be some basic questions. At least the child is getting passing marks, right? Even in our boards, we find there are some easy questions. So not that the entire paper is so tough. So, and we need to provide opportunities to different types of learners. Don't ask the same type of questions to all people, because we are dealing with different types of students. So the multiple assessment is basically for that. If they know the answers orally, let them give orally. If they want to present through a sketch, let them do that. Because there are different types of learners in our class. We have visual learners, audio learners, linguistic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, natural, physical, kinesthetic. So if somebody wants to enact out something, somebody wants to paint something, they give them freedom of expression. So multiple assessment is not that strictly they have to do. So the work is assigned. Now you, as per the talent of the child, can decide what has to be done, right? So this is basically the process that you have to apply. Right. So going ahead, tackling different types of learners. Now, this is a common problem, I think, with almost everybody, because since we have different type of learners in our class, they become restless. When we are giving our monotonous lectures, we will find that the students who are sportsmen are normally, they're very hyperactive, because they are the type of, they are kinesthetic learners. That means they want action, right? They will learn through sports. And there will be some people who want to collaborate. They want to give out answers. They will always put their hands up and say, sir, 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 or ma'am, ma'am, ma'am. And, some people like to listen their audio. And some people want the presentation. They will say, sir, write on the board, or, put this thing, smart board on, so that they get better learning opportunity. Because what happens is that since we are putting in the same effort for all the students, but the results will be different. If there are 40 students, we cannot expect everybody to get 100% or 90%. There will be some who will get 10%, 20, 30, 40. Why? Because different students have a different way of learning, but we are teaching them in the same style. So we have auditory learners, so for them, this audio sounds are important. So music goes very well from them. So that is why we always record our classes, so that, when they go home, they can listen to the recording. So I encourage many teachers to actually start their YouTube channel, so then put their lessons there, so that whenever the child is free, they can just listen to you. Because 40 minutes you're delivering, the child has 100 of other thoughts in the mind. Probably the child is not well. Probably, there are other one after the other. When you have subjects, by the time it's 12:31, the child is already tired. Or after break, they're coming, and then you are giving your big lecture there. So child is exhausted. So you can record these classes and keep it. And during the COVID times, we used to have all this, right, repository, but now it's offline. So if the child is absent, gone, right? But we should have a backup for auditory learners. Visual learners, of course, they want to see you, they like to interact, they like colors. So, give them freedom to experiment with colors. So they will write notes, because, for them, that writing is important. They want to see everything on the blackboard. So those are the visual learners. And then you tell them some stories, and there is some discussions and all. Those are the verbal learner. They want to participate. They're very active in the class. Then there will be some who want, sir, this is all easy, give us tough questions, logical ones. Their minds are very analytical. So logical learners are there, give them puzzles, questions, maps. They are very good at all those. Then kinesthetic and physical, of course, that is, give them a lot of models, by playing games with them, and then making them, especially in the primary, it's very effective. Interpersonal, then role play, then make groups, where they will collaborate. So like that. And interpersonal, of course, by assignments and engagement. So we have to find out ways where these, especially in the multiple assessment part, in the internal assessments, that each child is given this opportunity as per their caliber to do this. Otherwise, what is going to happen is that if we give a set of instruction that you have to do this way, then probably, everybody makes a painting on this particular topic and bring. Now, if I don't know how to paint, I will get low marks. So that shouldn't be. So there should be an opportunity for the musician, for the artist, the sportsman, to present his or her own idea in their own way, so that they get the marks for that. Right. So, and when you're talking about the internal test, there is a small portion also, I told you, a component about the MCQ or whatever, the periodic test that you're having. Now, the long answer, short answer, CPQs is more or less okay. But mainly when we focus on MCQs, please remember that all MCQ should have 4 options. This is as per, any board question paper you will see. It will never have 2 or 3 or 5, always 4 options. So that's a standard protocol when we should allow them to practice with this. So in some papers I have seen, okay, there is only true and false. So that's only 2 choices. So always try to give 4 options, and there should be choices within the section as recommended by the boards. There shouldn't be negative marking. Okay, allow the child to at least try, because otherwise they will always feel afraid. It's not a competitive IIT exam where negative marking is going to take place. Allow them to try out. So we always tell the student, even if you don't know, try it. Write the formula, just substitute, or you have to write some composition. Write it in your own words. Whatever answers you know, you try. We try. If we have negative marking system, then what will happen? These students will never try. So don't put any negative marking for anything that your student is doing. And obviously some students will do 2 times, 3 times. So in that case, it is normally the first attempted question, but nowadays the board is very lenient in those who are going for board checking. You will realize that they will say that whichever is correct, you give marks. So I think benefit should ultimately go to the student. So that's what the board wants. And that is why these internal assessments are there. So out of 20, ideally a student should be getting above 14. That means at least 15 in the out of 20, or even 15 is less, but at least, even if the child is very weak in the written test, at least he should be getting 15 by following this. And of course, in the periodic test, it should not be too simple or too complex. So it should be a mixture of simple, complex. There should be assertion, reasoning, case studies, everything. All options should be there, so that the child is not confused that what has to be done. Then the basic principles is that there has to be clarity. There is otherwise the children are always confused. What should be done in this? So there shouldn't be negatively statements. Keep the reading level low. Don't use very tough words. It should be a simplified language. Okay, unless of course it's an English paper where they want to check the vocabulary. Otherwise, for other subjects, that is not required, because we are not checking vocabulary here. We are checking whether the student has understood the idea or not. So keep it very clear. Questions should not be ambiguous, that they are confused on what has to be done. And always it should be easy to tough. Not that you are giving the first question very, very tough and the child gets stuck. I remember still we had one student, very good student, and in that particular exam, the teacher concerned had given a very tough question in the first question, and he kept on doing for half an hour, and he messed up the whole paper, because that was just a 1-mark question, but he couldn't do the other questions. I'm sure you must have also had experiences in your classes about this, that they get stuck in one question, they keep on doing that for half an hour, 45 minutes, when it's just a 5-mark, and then 5-minute question, and ultimately the whole paper goes bad just because of that one question. So always have easy to complex. So keep the easy ones in the beginning, so that the child gets confident, and then you can go to the complex and the HOTS. And ideally we should avoid none of the above and all of the above. If you are using at all, the rule is that make it as an incorrect option. Otherwise, some students will have all of the above, none. They don't know the answer, they'll put all of the above or none of the above. So don't keep it 3/4 of the time, 75% of the times. And choices should be similar in form. Okay, so not that it is varying. So if you are, let me give a simple example. Suppose I'm just giving a random example. Let's say 7/2. Okay, so 7/2. The answer option I'm giving 2.5, 3, 3.5, and 200. Now the 200 is not matching at all, right? So the option should be in similar form. So I'm talking about match, but similarly, it should be similar sounding. It should there should be some sort of similarity, not vague, not very vague. So, for example, identify the city in India. Now, in India, if I am putting these options of identifying cities in India, the 4 cities in India should be such that, it's not like, for example, I am putting Dallas and Madrid and Melbourne and let's say Pune. So it is obvious that, the child will make a guess there. So it should be very similar type of choices. So these are vague examples. And my idea is to give you the clarity on the ambiguity of questions where, one answer or 2 or 3 answers are totally different from the others. Like in terms of maths, the value should be more or less close to each other. Or you will work out and, probably you will find that most of the students make mistakes and get this answer. So there has to be that. Okay. Then we go to the next part, that is avoid clues. Okay, there should not be in the textbook. You will find hints and clues, so there shouldn't be like that. Then use common error and myth. So as a teacher, you know that you are experienced. You know that the errors that students make. So you can make choices on the basis of that. Then there are certain misconceptions. People think it that way, but it is not correct. So that way, like for example, in maths, I'm giving you more of maths example because I'm a maths teacher, but you can use it otherwise also. For example, if I say which of the following are rational numbers, which of the following are irrational numbers? Okay, so irrational number I am giving 3.14. I am giving 22/7. I am giving 3.14 bar, and I am giving pi. So, there is people think that, 22/7, 3.14 and 3.14 bar and pi, they're all same. They're not same. The actual value of pi is irrational because it's a non-terminating and non-repeating number, whereas 22/7 is a fraction, therefore it's rational. 3.14 is a terminating number, therefore it's rational. And 3.14 is a repeating number, therefore it is rational. So all the three were rational, but students are, that's a misconception that they're all equal. 3.14, 22/7 and pi is all equal. So these are misconceptions. So the correct answer should appear without pattern. Okay, not that question number 1 A, question number 2 answer is B, question number 3 answer is C. So that pattern should be avoided. It should be random. A, B, B, then C, then back to A, then D, like that. So they shouldn't be guessing what should come, because once they notice that there is a pattern, then they will keep filling that without actually solving or knowing the answers. And the correct answer should equally appear. That means if I'm having 20 MCQs, there should be 5 A's, 5 B, 5 C, and 5 D. Not that you're having 10 A's, 3 B's, like that. No. So moral, because otherwise what will happen, some student will be very clever. They will write all A's. So that shouldn't be the case. And then they will get 10 out of 20. Ideally, if they do that, they should be getting 1/4. That is 5 out of 20. Right? So that's a basic idea of this. And whenever we are making any test paper for any internal exams, external I'm not discussing, of course, because in the board exam it is outside. But for other classes, please remember to use Bloom's taxonomy. If you have not gone through that, just basic understanding is required for Bloom's taxonomy, that we should have all type of questions, not all tough, not all easy. It should be knowledge based. So you are asking a formula, you are asking, complete the sentences, true and false questions, simple MCQs based on simple knowledge. So there should be that. So when you are recalling a fact, you are recognizing or you are defining, okay, what is the meaning of atmosphere? It's a simple definition. Identifying something, who was the creator of dynamite. So these are simple questions based on knowledge. So you should have a lot of knowledge-based questions. Then the next level, we'll have the comprehension part, where you have to describe, compare, contrast, rephrase, explain, all that. So there is, why does, ice melt when kept in the open? So that is, the child has to explain why it is happening. So that comes under the next level, that is comprehension. The child is explaining, okay, at 0 degrees, the state of matter for water is ice, but when it comes to room temperature, the temperature is high, so ice starts melting, and so on. And then comes the application. Application means what you are applying the concept that you learned to higher questions. So you are classifying, you're choosing, selecting, solve. Okay, so these type of questions. So I'm just explaining a little bit why, because the internal test should also reflect all this Bloom's taxonomy, right? So here we have the keywords. This will help you to understand analysis. In analysis, we are identifying the causes, motives, consider. These are keywords. Okay, identify, deduce, deduct. Then we have synthesis, where we are combining the ideas. Okay, plan, construct, develop, right? Then we have evaluation, where we are judging the merits of that particular idea or solution. Argue, appraise, criticize. So they are asking your opinion. So all this comes under evaluation, right? So I'm not going into detail because this is not a session on Bloom's taxonomy. So I'm just giving you a basic idea, because some of you had requested me that how the midterm paper should be. And so I brought in this concept of Bloom's taxonomy and MCQ a little bit, but my focus, of course, for today's session will definitely be the internal assessments in terms of the other parameters. So this is just the last slide on Bloom's taxonomy. So this is just, I have given an example to make you understand that how does all these parameters of Bloom come with an example. Like, for example, if there is a pledge. So reciting the pledge. So you have made a pledge and you are just simply reciting from somewhere, that is knowledge. Then out of that pledge, you are explaining some keywords. What is liberty? What is justice? That becomes comprehension. Application is creating your own pledge. Okay, this is one pledge that you have read from somewhere. Now, can you try to make a pledge on cleanliness or safety or whatever? That is application, right? Then we come to analysis, explain, and to the, so one particular statement you are taking from the pledge that you have made, and then you are asking the importance of that. That is analysis. Then you are contrasting your pledge with that of your friend. You are contrasting that, okay? And you have presented on the same topic, and then you are both believing in the same topic, and then you are discussing that what is good about the pledge that your friend has written, what is good about yours, how it can be better. That is synthesis, contrasting. And then evaluation. You will describe the purpose of the pledge and suggest improvements. So that is the ultimate level where the purpose and suggestion for improvements are taken, right? So this is just an example about how we can do that. Now, coming back on the internal assessment parts. So main thing is that school should be very, very fair, because it's important. Fairness is very important. Otherwise, children and parents, and it is also our moral duty to give a fair and just internal assessment, because some students feel that whatever you do, the teacher will not give, or whatever you don't do, still the teacher will. Both are wrong. Both are wrong, right? So internal assessments have to be fair, reliable, transparent. That is why the rubrics are very important, and it needs to be evidence-based, especially with the coming of the SQAA framework, where every record has to be kept, the evidences have to be kept, and it has to be uploaded on the CBSE portal. So it is important that it has to be uploaded on the CBSE portal. It is going to become mandatory. Not that verbally we are telling, okay, you got 19 out of 20, you got 18, and we don't have any records for that. Then the school will be answerable for such cases. So what are we going to do in the multiple assessment? These are just some strategies that are discussed in the multiple assessments. What can be done? So we can have quiz, a general quiz. So it should not be written test, it should be oral, okay, quiz. We can have a crossword where clues are given, they have to fill the crossword. We can have oral tests. We can have individual or some group work, right? There can be random class discussions on any topic. We can organize a field trip to any museum, library, or any exhibition, and they can write on it, or they can discuss about it, or there can be some activity based on that trip, where the child is coming with some creative ideas. Ask the children what they have learned from that field trip. Okay, the field trip has to be a learning experience, of course. Then concept maps, graphic organizers, visual representation, all these can be done as multiple assessments. So it's up to the school what they are going to choose. You can choose 1, 2, whatever. And what is portfolio? Now, see, why is a portfolio needed? Because every person needs to know what is being done in the class. Okay, so that is why evidence has to be there. So what is the range of evidence that you are collecting of the whole year? That is your portfolio. Portfolio is basically the range of evidence collected. So it's not one thing. It may be 4 things, 5 things, 6 things. Okay, you are doing an activity, you are doing some special project, some special assignment is given, you have taken a class in a particular way. The sample of all that is called a portfolio. So it is something which happens on a daily basis. No extraordinary work is required to create a portfolio. So it is a purposeful collection of intentionally chosen students' work, representing a selection of performance that is assembled over time and describes the learner's efforts, progress, growth, and achievement in key areas, learning outcomes. So the first 3 lines of this paragraph beautifully summarizes what a portfolio is. First of all, it is a purposeful collection of chosen work. Not that the student has on one day was not doing work properly. So that is not, whichever work is chosen, that has to be good work, representing the the learner's efforts progress and growth and achievement is depicted, that is your portfolio. We are not going to put samples where the student is shown in bad light. The portfolio has to be good because we are choosing only samples, not the entire year's work. Okay, so that is why we will assess this. And it's a journey. It's not that, 1 month the portfolio is done and finished. It's a journey of over a period of months. Now you can decide whether it is 5 months or 6 months or 7 months, but it has to be something which is throughout the year, and they keep sticking their samples and this portfolio is ready. So it's a document, it's a record of the whole year, and this enables the learner as well as the teacher as well as the parents to see how systematically the growth of the learning is happening. What has the child done throughout the year? Some parents will come and ask, what has the child done? You see, this is what we did in April, this is what we did in May, this is what your child did. We have records. So we are able to monitor the growth and development of every child based on the performance, and the portfolio is the best record to show to anyone depicting the child's work over the period of months, right? So that's the portfolio. Now, how to prepare it? So the main thing is that portfolios, you should be explained to the students, and it should also be clear to the teacher. It should not be without purpose. Otherwise, it becomes a catalog. You see, go to a market and you see a catalog. Okay, these are things. So it's not a catalog. So it is basically an extension of your notebook. So you have a notebook in the class, you have a notebook at home. So it is an extension of that. So we are not including everything. We are using samples which will evaluate the learner's progress. So January we did this, February we did this, March we did this. So you have to show that there is progress. And it should enable the student to display his or her creativity. So the child can paint there, the child can, put some samples of pictures there, or something which the child has written on his or her own. Some exemplary work which the child has done can be pasted there in that. And the child has participated in some event, a report, or meetings of a minute which has been attended by the student. So ideas, content, all that can be put in this. So all this creative work can be assimilated into the portfolio, so that the child also feels happy. Oh, I have done this much, and then they are encouraged to do more. Otherwise, if we don't have something like this, then the child will think, okay, this is regular year, another year, and then it's a formality going from one class to the other. And peer assessment, there has to be group work, right? And they give to their friends. Okay, they also feel excited that, okay, such and such friend has done this much, Sachin has done this much, Amit has done this much, I should also do better. They get ideas. So they will identify their strengths, they will identify their weakness, and if they are having weakness, they'll try to become better because they are seeing samples of other students. Teacher is also showing, okay, see, children, these are the samples that I have got. So somebody who has no idea, they also may be getting some idea on how to create this. And so it's important that these works are shared. So because peer assessment is also very good for the student, and also it gives a lot of idea to the other students. So, and it should be guided, not that, initially, no, otherwise somewhere what you have made, this is, so let's avoid negative comments on any kind of portfolio that has been made. Let us try to encourage everyone. So even if it's a peer assessment, the teacher's role is very important as a facilitator. And when you want to assess these portfolios, you can make your own rubrics. These are only suggested. Like neatness, visual appeal. So they cover it beautifully, or they artistically, they are going to design it. So organization, how have they organized that? They have made a file, or is it a notebook, or is it loose pages, or, so that is organization. And is it including all the relevant work, the completeness, or they're just given 5 pages and saying that this is portfolio, the completeness. So you can put a lot of criteria in this, whether the child actually, the content, is there clarity on the content, the presentation, the neatness, the timing, all this you have to make your own rubrics, so that there is no problem later on. Subject enrichment activities. Now, subject enrichment activities, what is the meaning of this? So we are already having a curriculum. Now we have to select activities which will enrich our curriculum. So like we have lab activities, or you have speaking skills. So it's not about learning the subject. We are trying to apply that in real life. You are digging deeper into your discipline. So these are your subject enrichment activities. So subject enrichment activities should provide the students an opportunity to explore their own interest. That is why in this subject enrichment activity, they say also integrate art forms. Art integration project or art integration is included in this subject enrichment category when we are giving marks out of this. So it would be project work, it could be ASL, it could be experimental work, it could be project work, it could be lab work, lab activities. So all this comes under subject enrichment, something which will help them to go beyond the textbook and do something creative. So it is very important that we do our multiple assessment, subject enrichment and portfolios well, so that the student is not only thinking that only textbooks we have to do, there are other things. And remember, these have got 15 marks, which is very crucial. When you're adding it to the total, it makes a big difference, right? So subject enrichment. And this is specifically for the language teachers, that there are listening and speaking skills. So in that, there can be role play, skit, dramatization, and there is a circular which was released on 14 May 2020, which is available on the CBSE academic website. So if you have not gone through that, you can go through that. There is also a lot of material given, and the parameters of assessment, how whether they are fluent, the pronunciation is good, the language. See, as we are in different parts of India, our accent may differ. Okay, for example, I am a South Indian, so I may be having a South Indian accent. Somebody here may be a Punjabi, somebody here may be a Bengali. So we have all, somebody is from Tamil Nadu, they will all have different accents. So there shouldn't be any negative marking for the accent. Why? Because what is important is not the accent. The importance is the pronunciation. So the pronunciation is important. We cannot, pronounce words as per our whims and fancies. So our accent may differ. So we may not speak like Americans and Canadians, but at the same time, there is a way of pronouncing a word. So don't penalize any child for accents. Okay. So we are such a diverse country, and therefore everybody will be having a different accent. So a Bengali accent is different, Punjabi accent is different, and a South Indian accent is totally different. A Keralite will speak in a different way. Somebody from Tamil Nadu will speak in a different way. So even in South or North, there will be different dialects and different tones. So don't penalize the child for the tone or the accent. So these are some guidelines. But the pronunciation has to be correct. If they are pronouncing any wrong words, it is our duty to help them understand that this is not the way it is to be said. This is the way. So you can correct that. So speaking and listening skills. Lab activities in maths and science. This is already there in the curriculum. You can do this as per the suggestions in the lab manuals are already there. And this can be, paired with the state that is already out. Recently, we had the new paired states. Earlier, it was something else. We did that for 2-3 years, I think. And now we have a new paired state. So we come to know so much about that state, the culture, the food, the habits, the rainfall, the weather, the flora and fauna there. So otherwise, who will read about these states? Hardly we read, or some may be reading, not all. Now all the students are aware of those states because we are doing a project on that. I think it's a good initiative by the government, because it also comes under EBSB, Ek Bharat Shresh Bharat. So we are learning about different cultures, different dialects, different the forms, art forms. I think it's a good thing. And when we are integrating all this, we are able to provide good education to our kids. So I think I was able to explain more or less what is multiple assessment, what is subject enrichment, what is the meaning of portfolio, and how to conduct the periodic tests. So I want to thank you for joining me in this session. And I hope that there is some clarity in the internal assessments. And we hope that we'll be having more sessions. So in the future on different topics, not the same topic, this will be available. This recording will be available for you for further reference. So on this note, I want to wish you all the best. Take care and good night.